Hey guys, this is going to be a fun video today. I just got done cutting open my geode and it turned out to be something pretty beautiful. So I'm going to get straight into the polishing for this. As you can see, I've got my old lap grinder right here all ready to roll out. We're starting with the 60 grit diamond disc over here and we're going to be polishing this up. Oh, look at this beauty right here. Isn't that amazing? I'm really excited to see how this is going to look when it's all shined up. We're going to go with this one today. I'll polish the other side later on. I've got this big old defect right in here that didn't quite get cut off with the saw. So that's going to take a little bit of time to abrade that down. You can see that's really a good speed bump right there. So we'll set this one aside right over here. And this is going to be the one that we're working on with today. It's really nice and smoothed out already today, so it shouldn't need too much work. But we'll get this thing looking really beautiful really quick, I think, today. But first off, guys, I want to thank you so much for giving me all the wonderful feedback that you've given me on this channel. It helps out greatly, so thanks so much. Alright, let's get this started, okay? So what I usually do, if you've been watching some of these videos, is I take one of these Sharpie markers and I'm just going to draw a bunch of lines right all over this thing. I'm going to be careful though to avoid any kind of pits, because if you get this black into those pits, you're going to be grinding down for a while. But what this does, it's going to help make sure your stone is completely level. So when I abrade off all of this black material, I'll know I'm pretty flat and there aren't any bumps and stuff around there. We can even add a little bit more right over to here. You don't have to worry about getting too carried away because it's all going to go away. So just like that, we're ready to get this started. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install my full reservoir of water. I want to make sure we have plenty of water. Especially for this first step, it consumes so much water. I want to make sure the plate gets nice and cool from the water and helps prevent all that dust from flying around. You definitely don't want any dust flying around. Got my safety goggles. Always want to wear those. Ooh, these are a little bit on the dirty side. I probably should have cleaned them. As you can tell, this machine gets a lot of use. It is so dirty, speaking of dirty. Alright, and I've got an empty drainage bucket right here, so we are all ready to go, and of course my rock. Alright, now we're ready to get started on this bad boy, so let's get this thing fired up. A little bit of water coming out. Oh, I just love that fresh dirt smell. So it's real simple. All we're going to do is just take this rock and place it flat on the flat lap here. You can see we're taking quite a bit off pretty fast. I usually have the setting between 3 and 4. You don't need it to be going too fast for this particular step. You want the real coarse diamond grit to really grip hold of the rock and pull off the material as quickly as possible. It works really effective on these rocks. Yeah, this is looking pretty good right now. As you can tell, it gets pretty noisy pretty quick too. So we'll just keep going at it. One thing to note, you kind of want to keep moving it around, because if you hold it in any one space for too long, you're going to run into a lot of issues where it may get too smooth on one side and you're not smoothing out the other side, or you can get a lot of scratches that are really embedded into these rocks. So always keep it moving around for any step that you're on. All right, that'll do it. Look at that. Oh, nice and flat. I can even feel it so smooth. Beautiful. All right, before I'm done with this step, I like to do one thing, especially when I'm working on a super flat surface. These are razor sharp, these edges, and they're prone to being very brittle and cracking over time. So I like to bevel these out. And it's gonna be real quick. I'm just gonna take this and gently, no pressure at all, just let the weight of the rock do all the work. And I'm just gonna go around just like so. And that's gonna bevel these edges out. It's gonna clean it up and it's gonna make it look a lot nicer than it's perfectly razor sharp cut. You don't have to do this. This is just a step that I really like doing. Again, just because it's so brittle, you can kind of feel how it's really sharp too. You don't want to get cut down the road when you're enjoying your rocks and examining them. So it's just something I like to do, something to consider. Now you can see I've got this nice, beautiful, beveled out edge. You don't want to get too carried away. Otherwise you might start shaping out the whole rock, which could be pretty cool though. Depends on what you're trying to go for. Yeah, let's do that. We're gonna stick with this and we're gonna switch to the next plate. Alright, I want this to be completely flat, so I'm just going to take my Sharpie again, add a couple of lines to it, just to make sure we're on the correct course. Yeah. Got our water supply going again. Hope that's not too much. No, that looks good. So again, we don't need too high of an RPM for this. I usually set it again between 3 and 4, 4 being the most. So we're on the 180 grit right now. This should knock off a lot of those extra grooves that the heavy diamond grit put in. This will make it nice and smooth. It's also a lot more quieter, isn't it? So you can see why I like using that black marker line. This wasn't 100% flat in this area, so that really shows I got to work a little bit more on this part. We'll get it all flattened out here eventually. It's going to require a little bit of work though. Almost there. Let's go a little bit more. Yeah, that looks pretty flat now. Alright, I think we're ready to move on to the next step. You can see this type of material on the rock. I don't think that's going to polish up at all. It's really gritty. Has something to do with, you can see on the veins of it that run through here in the matrix, it is not going to really be polish friendly. So I'll be surprised if that part actually polishes up. But the rest of this agate and chalcedony in here, that's going to come out really beautiful. Wow. Alright, let's swap out these discs now. Got that calcium out here in our water. Hard water is not fun. Always plugging something up. Let that water run on there, get it nice and wet, the pad. Alright, let's get to it. It's looking good. You can definitely see that material I was telling you guys about earlier. It just doesn't look like it's going to polish up down here in the bottom. It's just so gritty, really smoothed out. You can see how the veins are polishing, but the rest of the content it isn't. And that's either because it's getting abraded out quicker than this. It's a lot softer, the material. It's more of a dirt-like stuff that got compacted when it was formed, this particular geode. That definitely won't polish up. There's a few things you can try to polish it up. Usually requires some extreme work though. I'm either going to crank this thing up on full throttle and hope that the heat actually starts to solidify this a little bit, which will form kind of a glassy look to it. Sometimes that'll work, but a lot of times it won't. You can always go in with like a Dremel too, which is another option, like one of those sanding discs, and again the heat from it, make sure you're doing it outdoors. If you do, it'll turn it into a glass because it gets so hot, almost starts to melt that material. Then you can go over it with the polisher. I'm not going to do that though today. I'm just going to let this roll as is. I think it looks beautiful just the way it is. Nothing wrong with a little bit of not polished. It's the material that was in this beautiful specimen right here. So let's go a little bit more on this brown disc, and then we'll be completely done with that. I'm going to work a little bit on the bevel too, just to make sure it kind of has a nice consistency of the smoothness that goes around there. I can see I've got some imperfections right there. Alright, let's move on to the next step. All right, time to switch out to the old blue disc. We're on the home stretch now. Contact. Alright guys, so there we go, completely polished. I wound up polishing up its sister half and it turned out really beautiful as well. Just look at that. It was a little bit stubborn, but in the end I think it looks really nice. Wow. Alright guys, so I really hope you enjoyed watching this today. If you did, please be sure to consider hitting that subscribe button and help this channel grow. Thanks so much guys for viewing. Till next time.